Hey there, welcome back. This is Tio at the Martial Arts Center with workout number 7. Today I'm going to be showing you what we call Quick Defense Level 1. On today's workout, the idea being that there are 4 parts to every self-defense scenario. You just may not use all 4 parts. So the first level is designed to work on 5 techniques, and the concept was that if you do a new technique, we're going to give you 3 different quick defense moves. A quick defense is defined as something that is not a full self-defense scenario. It's just the first part. It's just the block concept of the self-defense scenario. So that's what I'll be going over today. And they have 5 techniques, and each has 3 technique variations off of it. The first one that we're going to do is the punch defense, and I have 3 blocks, 3 basic blocks that we use. The first one is the slap block. Now I'm going to start in a fighting stance, and I'm going to assume that there's somebody throwing a punch at me, and I'm going to give it a slap down. It's not a very complicated block, and because this is part of quick defense, I can also just start in a neutral stance and then just simply do the slap block. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm just redirecting, moving the punch away from my face, away from my body, and if there's a secondary punch, I want to have both hands in this center line region to deflect anything else that's coming at me. The idea behind this first move is that the opponent is not doing a lot of pressure. It'd be one of those things where he's probably just standing in place and throwing a strike to try to sucker punch. So what I want to do is, before I do any sort of a self-defense scenario, I'm going to keep my hands sort of right in the middle. This is from one of the most renowned instructors in self-defense, and that was Jim Harrison, who just recently passed away, by the way. And so what his recommendation was, if somebody's going to be standing directly in front of you, that gives you very little advantage. So what he recommended was stepping off to a slight angle, almost to a cat stance position, and put your hands directly in front of your center line, whether they be right up in front of your face or a little bit lower, someplace so that you can have your hands and your body in such a position so that if they do make a step, you're already set up for defense. If I'm in a fighting stance and somebody attacks me, I have substantially greater balance, distance, defense, protection for center line and legs. So given that the person is just sort of standing and punching with no pressure, means that I'm already going to be at a disadvantage. So this is just one of those fast reflex blocks. It's not complicated. It's just one of those, hey, get that thing away from me kind of a move. So the second move that is the punch defense is a sweeping smother block. Now in this one, the opponent is really over aggressively stepping with their strike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a step backward, and as I do step backward, I'm going to use the lead side to create a windshield wiper effect, and I'm going to sweep the entire front region of the body to catch part of that punch. This is one of those where you just want to sort of be lucky and catch it. If you're stepping away, you're creating distance, you're neutralizing the power because you are creating that distance, and more importantly, you're going to give yourself extra time to react. So as I step back, I'm going to keep one hand up in front and the other one just in case I sort of miss that strike as it's coming in. And I sweep the arm all the way to the front. Now I can continue to block with this same arm, or I can continue to move backward or side to side. The key in this one is that I'm trying to do this in combination. As I step, I sweep and smother. So that's the sweeping smother block. That's technique 2 on the punch defense. The third and last one for punch defense is what we call brush parry. This block, I go across the front of the body and I bring my hand up and catch the back of my head. There's a couple variations on this move. When I do this secondary block, I'm pointing the elbow directly at the opponent because that can be one of the defensive points that they strike. If they're throwing a punch and I can catch that first move fast enough, I can have them punch the tip of the elbow. And if you've ever tried to punch somebody and they stick something in front of you before you're ready to strike them, it short circuits your strike and it damages the punch as it's coming in. Damaging by, it makes it fail. You're not getting the effective strike that you were hoping to get. It's jammed up. So when that happens, it could cause breakage to the hand. It can cause breakage to the wrist. It's a way for us to have a person who's standing right next to us throws a sucker punch, and we have some sort of a quick, fast block that we can use. And as we did in the one of the previous videos where we were doing the brush parry with a step on the super combo. As I'm stepping and blocking, my objective on that move is to try to get around and behind the opponent. So in this case, what I'm doing here simply is I'm simply blocking in place, trying to cover the place that the opponent is attacking, and using both hands as part of that. This particular block exists in every single martial art. They just call it something else. And because it is one of the most effective blocks, you can also simply just raise your arm up and stick it right on top of your head. Makes it into almost like a ramming shield that you use, and that's what it is called, ram shield, for having them strike the end of the tip of the elbow, or just using it as a ram backward into them as you're doing it. Okay, so that's the end of that one, the brush parry for the close quarter strike. Next, number 2. This is for a two-hand shirt grab. Now this is a two-hand front shirt grab, so we can use different variations like for our choke or for a two-hand push. But for this particular technique, I'm just going to go with the two-hand shirt grab. And the reason is, if we have a two-hand shirt grab now and we have a two-hand push later, I'm going to give you 3 techniques for that two-hand push. If I have a choke, I'm going to give you 3 techniques for that choke. But if we have a two-hand shirt grab again later on in one of the later belts, I'm only going to give you 1, because that's the concept of the quick defenses. Right now we're going to give you 3 new moves. But as we go forward, we're going to run out of ideas. We're going to run out of technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to conserve that by giving you 1 at a time as we see that. And since there's not a lot of techniques in the quick defense system, most of the techniques are reserved for things like grabs and punches. And so there's not an infinite number of moves that you can do. So for this two-hand shirt grab, the first one that I'm going to do, I'm going to hook down on one of the arms that's on my shirt. And I'm going to use this hand to push up. This is called a web hand. And as you do that, I'm going to slightly tilt my head back, because I've done this so many times where I forgot to do that. And as I'm pushing this hand up, it releases and then smashing right underneath the chin. So what I'm going to do at the same time, I'm going to pull one down and lift the other up. And notice I'm arching my back and slightly tilting back, because once I get that clear, then I can follow up and move forward and stay more aggressive in my follow-up from there. So once again, I'm doing a hook down and a web hand up as I slightly tilt my head back. You could also do it the opposite way. You can hook down here and pull that way. But I think that going with your strong side with the web hand gives you a lot more aggressive attack, and it just, for me, feels more natural to do it that way. That's a web hook. Hook on one side, web hand on the other. Second move, the snake block. On this one, what we have is we have the two-hand shirt grab. If you can imagine, I'm going over the top of this arm and under the other arm right at the wrist. I catch a hold of my hand and double up. As I step forward, I'm going to pry that arm off so that I'm sort of smashing the two arms together. I'm using my Star Trek Captain Kirk hand movement here. As I swing this over and down, I'm taking both of the arms, because this is wedging the arms off in such a way where it's difficult for them to hold on. So over and under, grab, step forward, and twist and shove the arm off the body. Next one is I'm going to reach underneath. This is his right arm grabbing me in the front. This is his left arm. Underneath the first one, so I'm going through the middle. Now I'm going to go over the top. This is critical, because if you try to do both under, you'll end up locking yourself and it won't work. So we're going to go under one and over the other, and then at the same time pull them together. This allows the opponent's wrist to collapse so that they're not able to effectively grab. It's nearly impossible for them to get a solid grip like that. You have some people who just have crazy strength that no matter how far you pull, they're still going to be able to hold on. So the secret here is to get them to snap the wrist connectivity so that they're not able to maintain that structure of the hand grab. So what I'm doing is I'm simply grabbing and pulling them together like this. So I go under and then over and then pull them together. And that's the third of the two-hand shirt grab. So now we're going to go on to a wrist grab. This is a first level. So we're going to be doing some very basic moves on this level. If I haven't already mentioned, things like a punch defense or a shirt grab or a wrist grab. These are very basic self-defense concept, and so it's very relevant for us to use in this first level, because now as we go forward, once we've got these basic ones out of the way, we can start adding some more complicated moves in there, like combination punches, kick punch combinations, weapon strikes. We can use knife attacks. So we'll be doing those as we go further in other lessons using higher levels of the quick defense. All right, so next is the wrist grab. This is the easiest of all self-defense moves. These are sort of party tricks. We do so many of them. The idea here is that what I'm going to do on this first move, it's a cross wrist grab. We call this crossing talon, where the person's reaching across with the opposite hand and grabbing. What I'm going to do is I'm simply going to roll my hand up and I'm going to chop down against the part of the wrist here where the cops put their handcuff to keep it snug. I'm going to chop that little bit right there because that's going to make it nearly impossible. When I roll their wrist over and chop down, it creates what we call a censure lock in the wrist and forearm. It's hard for them to hold on because it tightens the forearm muscle, and that becomes very uncomfortable. It's not a cramp, it's a pain. And when you twist somebody's wrist backward like that and then force down, it's really painful. They'll release rather than hold on through the pain. So I'm just moving my hand up and chop. And you'll notice I'm not stepping in any way with this move because it's a quick defense. If I have to step, it's probably going to be more complicated, and I'm trying to simplify these levels of self-defense to just the least common denominator. I don't want to complicate the move because that's going to make it harder for me to remember, hard for me to practice, and hard for me to execute. So in this instance, what I'm doing is simply just chopping the wrist. I'm not moving at all. So the next one is, I'm going to move on this one, but the first thing I do is I create that web hand underneath the straight wrist grab. So it's his left hand grabbing my right wrist. I'm going to step forward and I'm going to push the web hand up. I'm going to turn it over and then I'm going to shove it straight down. Up, over, and down. Now I'm not just doing this on its own. I'm also going to have a cover hand. I'm going to be very aggressive with this step, and my next move would be some sort of a follow-up. Fill in the blank with what you want to do. We all have our favorite technique that we like to use when we're following up. This is just a quick defense. Get away from the wrist grab. Like I said, it's not complicated. Wrist grabs are one of the easiest types of self-defense to do, so I'm using this as a conversation starter. How do I get myself out of that wrist grab as quickly as possible into a position where I can defend myself, attack, and finish the scenario as quickly as possible. All right, so that's number two. The last one, and this is just a straight up grab from the Kempo move. What I'm going to do is I'm going to twist my wrist. And it doesn't really matter which hand the opponent's using, right or left, because I can twist in or out depending on where I'm going, which is to where the finger and thumb meet together. So as I do this, I can step forward or I can step backward. I like to step backward because it gives me more distance and time in case they're doing a grab and a punch. So I'm going to step back, I'm just going to twist the wrist down, I'm going to pull it across, and I'll pop myself in the armpit because that stops me from hitting myself in the head or crossing my arms and smashing my forearm. So this protects me, so I'm actually putting it in a safe spot so I can come back with a recoil strike. Moving away, I create distance, I create time, and I give myself balance and distance. The distance is because I get a pivot point off that lead side that I can get if I go forward. I'm simply stepping back because I need to give myself that a little bit extra time for reaction. So that's the end of the number three wrist grab defense. All right, number four, this is a side shoulder grab. So if you can imagine the opponent's just sort of reaching out, grabbing, maybe possibly following up with a punch, some sort of a manipulation, trying to move me around. As I step away from the attack, I'm doing that to elongate the opponent's grab. If they're stubborn and they want to keep their arm locked to my shirt, extending their arm out is going to make it more susceptible to damage. So as I step away, I'm just using an open hand slap block, just like what I used on the first technique, the first move. So here I'm recycling, I'm taking my technique and I'm using it again. So I don't have to learn a whole bunch, I can use one over and over again. And I'm simply doing a slap block against the elbow. Because it's extended now, it's going to be more dangerous for him to hold on through the attack. It's going to be more susceptible to breakage or hyperextending. So I cover, slap the arm free. If I have to do more than that, that's not a quick defense. This is just a concept that we're working with on quick defense, which is step away, slap his arm away. If I have to do something more than that, he's probably already understanding what I'm doing, and he's setting up his defense against my offense. Second move. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step away again, and I'm going to bring my arm around into the back, and as I bring it up, I'm going to create a hammer fist, and I'm going to roll the hand down, striking with the forearm and the hammer fist against his wrist or the top of his hand. The reason why I'm doing that is because the closer I get to his hand, the harder it's going to be for him to hold on if I hit really strong. So I'm going to smash down against that arm. I do that as one move. I step away, extending the arm. I cover with the other hand because I don't want to get punched with a sucker punch. And then as I'm doing this, I'm bringing the arm up and down in a really aggressive manner. So I'm going to be able to knock that hand away because it's going to tilt their wrist. It's difficult to hold on when your hand is extended like this. And that's the third one. Actually, the second one. So here's the third one. What I'm going to do is the same step. I'm going to step away, and I'm going to swing my arm to the front. And as I swing the arm to the front, I'm going to bring it around to the back, and I'm going to hook their elbow, and I'm going to continue that circle. This is another one of those, I stole this from Kempo because it's a really nice move. This is a side shoulder grab defense that's done from the very beginning. It's called the wrap around. We just wrap the arm around. So I can catch the arm if I want to maintain the lock so that it hurts more. But as I swing this arm, I want to use this personally as a floater because that allows me to catch something that might be coming in behind it, like a punch or a shovel to the head or a tire iron. Who knows what's coming in from behind. So that way I have a sort of a floating block, and I can use this one to, just like I did on that first sweeping smother block, I can cover a lot of area with one arm instead of dedicating both arms to a grab that I should be able to get away with just a slap block if necessary. So those three moves, the slap block against the elbow, the smother block against the wrist, and then the wrap around against the elbow as it bends, you're going to dislocate the shoulder if you strike fast enough. Okay, last one. This is number 5, the club attack. Oh boy, my favorite concept on this one. And now, this one is going to be 3 variations that are totally and completely different. The first one is a Kempo technique from brown belt where I step along the triangle step. I'm going to use my left arm to catch the wrist. Do not try to catch the club. You'll get hit in the fingers, you'll get hit in the head. So as I'm catching the wrist, I'm going beyond the weapon. Now I'm going to bring my other arm under and between, and I'm going to do a backward wrist hook, and I'm just going to pull the weapon down out of the air. That's almost like a brush parry hook, sweep it down. I'm stepping off the firing line because I don't want to remain directly in front of the opponent as he attacks. That's going to make it easier for him. By stepping off the firing line, I create an angle that gets my body and my head away from the attack. Then I fill that space with arms and hands because I'd rather get hit in the arms and hands than hit in the head. So I'm doing that as I'm stepping, so I'm creating a combination of moves. I've got my step and sweep at the same time. I don't want to do those independently. That's not fast enough. You have to react quick enough so that you understand our basic concept about clubs and knives. And that is, if I'm defending against a club, I go forward. If I'm defending against a knife, I go backward. So move into the club, move away from the knife. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm moving into the club. Okay, second one. This one is a little more quick. It's a quicker move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step up on that same angle, and I'm just going to reach up and hook the wrist. Now I'm going to take my right step to 3 o'clock for my position, and as I do this, well actually it's 9 o'clock for my position, I'm going to swing backward, and I'm just going to pull the weapon down out of the air. So I'm doing everything I did before with 2 hands with 1. I'm going to step up and hook, and then I'm going to reface and pull down. This is one of the fastest club defenses I've ever seen because I can move as I'm stepping almost at the same time with both steps. That's that refacing step that we practiced from the super combo. I'm going to step up, hook, and sweep. I get that weapon down and out of the air. Once it's out of the air, it loses the potential for power. That means I can follow up very quickly, and I can take the opponent out of the attack faster than they can recover. So that's why I'm using these quick defenses, because this is a fast block. Club attacks, club defenses, those are dangerous. If I have a slow block, I'm going to get hit. You'll know that when you try to do it, when you're practicing, when you say, okay, try to hit me in the head with the club, and the person is able to do that. If you can do this and they can't hit you in the head, then it's a more effective block. If they're really trying to get you and you can defend against it, you can bet that's going to work in a real live fire situation. So let's learn how to do these now in our science lab so that when we go out into the real world, somebody trying to attack us with a weapon, we're educated in reality, not in somebody else's guessing game. We're not taking people's word for it. We're doing this in practice so that we can do it for real when we need to. Last move on this lesson and last move on our list today is the third block against the club. This one's completely and totally different, so let me give you a little background on where we came up with this. It was about 25 years ago. I was going through all of our self-defense techniques in the Kempo system, and I was trying to do a little test to see were they effective or not. I would have my black belts attack me. I would do a defense that was supposed to be done. I would do this against students. I would do this against non-martial artists. And club defenses are one of those things where everybody can do it. You don't have to be a martial artist to be able to swing a club at somebody's head. This is as old as Neanderthal man. So as I was going through this, I would ask people their opinions of it. I would give them the opportunity to comment on it and to see if they had something that was better than this. And the move that we all came up with as a group, we stepped forward directly into the center line. Now this is something that everybody's going to sort of freak out about because one of the rules is you don't step straight ahead. Because if you do, you're going to end up stepping on the guy's foot. He's going to step on your foot. You're going to crash into each other. You're going to have a very poor stance. Well, in this instance, I'm sacrificing that so I can jam the opponent backward. As I move in, I'm going to block upward and I'm going to open my hand up because I'm probably going to get hit. I'm probably going to get hit along the forearm. And I'm going to take this opposite palm hand and I'm going to shove it right into the top of the face or into the body. I found that I can do this to the upper torso a lot more aggressively than if I try to hit him in the face. Plus, if I go for the face, I might hit him in the mouth and he might end up biting me in the hand. So I'm using this as a combination. Everything's going at the same time. I step, block, and palm in one motion. I'm not stepping, then blocking, then palming. I'm doing this in one strike, and I'm trying to blast through the opponent and shove them back where they came from. I've done this thousands and thousands of times against many variety of opponents. As I said, black belts, lower level belts, people who weren't martial artists at all. I just said, take that club and try to hit me in the head. And I would do this move, and it was effective. So based on that sort of testing, I was able to verify that this works because I've used it in not just samples, not in just pretend, not in just the science lab, but for real, out in the real world. This works against a lot of different scenarios. And if you create your responses to real world attacks, you're going to find out that you can adapt them. As I said at the beginning, we're doing recycling of blocks. So this block works against many frontal attacks. It can work against a push. It can work against a punch. It can work against a combination punch. It can be used as an opening technique for when there are multiple opponent attack to where I can drive through one of the opponents, create some space, get some distance so I can get out of the circle and then start defending more effectively. So that's why I feel very passionate about this particular move. It has a lot of effectiveness for real world technique, and that's what we're doing this for. We're doing it so that we can have a combination of moves, not just one. So that's the lesson for today. Workout number 7. We'll be releasing each of the levels of quick defense going forward, and I'll probably go a lot faster. This first level I wanted to spend a little bit of time explaining, giving more insight and detail, but as we go through the next levels, I'll go much faster through each technique because there are going to be substantially more. I think we have 10, 15, 20 techniques per belt going forward. All right, stay safe, stay away from the cooties, and quit picking your nose, wash your face. I'll talk to you guys